When wild hogs start showing up inside residential areas, the question is no longer what just happened, it's what's coming next. One uncontrolled intrusion can quickly turn into a habit, and once windows are shattered and furniture is overturned in broad daylight, the sense of safety people once took for granted is gone. At that point, this is no longer an isolated incident. It's a clear sign that the boundary between human space and wildlife has been pushed dangerously close. If early intervention doesn't happen, the behavior almost always repeats. And the next time, it's usually worse. That's when our team stepped in, to protect that line of safety before it disappeared entirely. After an incident like this, the instinctive reaction is often to turn on lights, make noise, try to scare hogs off. But once wild hogs become human habituated, those tactics don't remove them, they just force them to adapt. They pull back to the edge of the neighborhood, shift their activity later into the night, and return once everything goes quiet. That's why the first traps weren't meant to wipe out the entire sounder right away. The goal was to stop the escalation, prevent a worst-case scenario over the next few nights, and regain control of the situation. We placed a drop cage trap along a narrow trail behind the row of houses, the same route the lead boar consistently used to return. As soon as it committed to the path, the trap fired. The response was quick, controlled, and kept noise and disruption to a minimum. From there, the team shifted to the wooded area behind the parking lot, open terrain with unpredictable approach angles. A circular cage trap was deployed because it allows entry from multiple directions, reducing blind spots and limiting the chance of hogs feeling cornered and bolting for an escape. This setup is especially effective when a sounder is still probing the area and hasn't locked into a fixed route yet. After several attempts that didn't go their way, the sounder grew more cautious. They stopped charging straight into the neighborhood. Instead, they hung back, watching from a distance, grouping up, then spreading out. For wild hogs, that's classic sounder behavior, moving together to reduce risk, increasing vigilance when they sense danger. So we didn't chase individuals, we targeted what made them strong, their staging behavior. A corral trap was set along the forest edge, right where the sounder typically paused to regroup before pushing in. Once that staging area was controlled, the hogs lost their advantage. Moving in as a coordinated group became much harder. For sounders that had already exploited residential areas multiple times, the Boarbuster proved even more effective. The system allows operators to wait until the entire group is inside a safe zone before triggering. This avoids early activation that panics the hogs, fragments the sounder, and lets the smartest individuals slip away. It doesn't apply immediate pressure, but it delivers lasting results once hogs are conditioned to the route and bait. At the same time, smart corral traps were deployed along boundary routes. Remote monitoring allowed the team to choose the right moment to activate, minimizing unnecessary interference. At this stage, the operation functioned as a control network, not a handful of disconnected traps. From this experience, one lesson became clear. If you want real results, don't chase tracks. To truly reduce hog damage, control the gathering points and manage the sounder as a whole. The longer you wait, the faster they learn, and the harder they become to stop. Not every trap is triggered in a single night. Each time the hogs return, they encounter a new barrier. Over time, the area stops being worth the risk. And none of this works unless it's done safely, humanely, and in full compliance with local regulations. Once wild hogs cross into residential space, the issue is no longer about property, it's about community safety. Proper control isn't a fight against nature, it's responsible intervention, making sure the line between human life and the wild doesn't disappear.
I need my camera back.
Very light, very durable. A wild yelp y'all inside the trap. We use that camera as pre-baiting.
couple in there too. In the bus, come on. Yep. Hello, yep. She have it. Come on, sister. Yep. All right, there you go.
At night, the neighborhood falls silent. Traps sit quietly, as if nothing ever happened. But the next morning, fresh mud trails and footprints stretch along the fence, a stark reminder that the herd is still patrolling right near people's homes. And here's the worry. Every intervention doesn't make them vanish. It just makes them smarter. So the question remains, are the traps truly controlling the herd, or just teaching them to be cunning? Let's find out. At first, small box traps were chosen for their compact size and suitability for residential areas. They were placed along fences, near trails, exactly where wild pigs usually pass. The first few nights looked calm, leading many to believe the herd was under control. But camera footage revealed the truth. Box traps only affected the boldest individuals approaching closely, leaving the rest of the herd to follow their usual paths, merely adjusting timing and spacing. To expand control, a larger suspended drop cage, was set up on the edge of the neighborhood. Bigger, sturdier, with bait in the center to lure the whole herd at once. Early attempts went smoothly, but a single mistimed trigger when the herd wasn't fully inside changed everything. The next night, the pigs stayed back, circled wider, even splitting into smaller groups to scout. Now, it wasn't about trap size, it was about the herd calculating the risk along its own routes. And when the pigs start avoiding traps strategically, the tactic has to evolve. Don't just wait for them, guide them along high-probability paths into the frame already set.
It's just a nasty old mess, and I ain't trying to get just nasty just yet. But you can see.
For these observations, the strategy shifted. Don't chase where the herd appears. Lock down their movement corridors. Enclosure traps were built according to terrain and recorded tracks, not to startle the herd, but to offer a safe choice that coincides with the setup. Once the herd enters fully and starts feeding comfortably, the trap triggers decisively, minimizing missed captures and reducing the chance the herd will adapt their route later.
Yeah. 1, 2.
Gradually, the neighborhood returns to normal life. Nighttime paths are no longer hidden risks. Crops are protected through measures that respect the surrounding environment. Wild boars aren't seen as threats to eliminate. They're a natural element that needs responsible management. In situations like this, results don't come from brute force. They come from understanding behavior, controlling space, and intervening responsibly, making the community safer while breaking the cycle of recurring risk. The key lesson: don't chase the herd, lock down its paths. This content is for risk management and community safety purposes. All handling must follow local regulations and be done by trained professionals. In Georgia, wild boars are no longer a temporary problem. With populations spread across the entire state, they've become a long-term management challenge for agriculture, infrastructure, and natural environments. Estimated economic losses exceed $150 million per year, but the bigger concern lies in the lasting impacts on farmland, production chains, and the stability of rural communities. At this scale, damage is no longer confined to a single farm. It becomes a regional risk. The question is how to prevent it from spreading before it gets out of control. Field studies in the US show that an adult wild boar herd can travel long distances in a single night, yet they tend to return to spots that have consistently provided food. Rather than causing destruction all at once, boars often start on overlooked edges, the perimeter of fields or forest borders, repeating these behaviors over multiple nights. Over time, these familiar paths allow other herds to access the same areas. This behavior means that delays in control can lead to cumulative effects: decreased soil productivity over successive seasons, increased traffic accidents involving wild boars, and the spread of disease to livestock and native wildlife. Such risks cannot be solved with temporary measures. They require systematic, long-term management. The effective approach is not reacting to individual incidents, but controlling the impact zone. Instead of chasing single animals, corral traps are deployed based on real-world data, frequency of sightings, repeated travel routes, and intersection points between forest and farmland. Studies show that influencing herd behavior is more effective than targeting individual boars. Breaking the cycle of return dramatically reduces damage, even if not all animals are removed. In wildlife management, behavioral control matters more than population control. Addressing the return points ensures long-term effectiveness rather than just reacting to immediate consequences. In central areas, where losses account for the bulk of seasonal damage, traps are activated only when the key herd is identified. The goal is to disrupt the behavior of the most problematic individuals, reducing damage quickly. At the edges, traps act as a guiding measure. Early intervention breaks familiar access cycles, lowering visitation frequency without forcing the herd to move elsewhere. This approach maintains regional stability instead of just temporarily addressing a hotspot.
Taken care of before it starts raining again.
When particularly destructive individuals are caught, handling is done following official wildlife management protocols. This includes adherence to local laws, safety standards, and humane principles, ensuring human safety while minimizing unnecessary ecological impact. This step is crucial to protect agriculture while maintaining ecological balance. After implementing a strategically planned control program, field reports show a significant reduction in destructive activity. In many cases, crop damage drops 60 to 80% in a single season, even if wild boars are not entirely removed from the area. This proves that effectiveness comes not from extreme measures, but from systematic, responsible management. In the US, safeguarding today's harvest is essential, but maintaining balance for future seasons is the real success. Proper management doesn't eliminate all risk, but it keeps it within controllable limits.